Gluten-free dinner rolls. Welcome to Believe It's Not Gluten, the home of amazing recipes for the gluten intolerant. Amazing because they taste so good no one will know they're gluten-free. These bread rolls are a brand new recipe for me, but they're really good. Apart from having to leave them to rise, they're actually quite quick to make and far less mess than regular bread rolls. So you'll need the dry ingredient mix, the recipes on the blog, yeast, sugar, Dijon mustard for flavour, egg and oil. So start by putting 3 1/4 cups of warm, not hot water into a bowl and adding the sugar, the yeast and the mustard. Give it a good mix and then let it stand for around 10 minutes until it is bubbly and foaming. As well as activating the yeast, this step will also show you that your yeast is good and your rolls will work. Then add the egg and the oil and give it a quick mix. In with the dry ingredients and give it a good mix with a metal spoon. It gets pretty stiff here and probably easier not to use a flexible bowl like I have here. Just do your best. You don't need to stir it for a long time, just until it's pretty well mixed. Then smooth it all out into the bottom of the bowl so that you get it all in, try to get it into one even lump, and then divide it into 4 pieces. So you want it to be stirrable at this stage. If you get it here like this, where it's quite stiff and it's already forming a ball, then that's too dry and you need to work in a bit more water. So a little bit of flour on the bench, you don't need too much. Take out 1/4 of your mix at a time. Put it onto the flour and then flour your hands a little. Roll the ball of dough a little in the flour, just so it's not too sticky for you to pick up, and then you just gently squeeze with both your hands while rotating it around. Just squeeze it gently. If you squeeze it too much, you'll get to the sticky part inside. So just gentle squeezes and move it around a bit and squeeze again. You'll get the feel of it quickly. If you need to add more flour, just flour your hands a little again. And just keep doing this until the dough is dry enough on the outside for you to be able to roll it into a sausage shape. Usually around 10 to 15 squeezes. It doesn't take a long time. So roll it into the sausage shape and then cut it into 3 pieces with your spoon. If you want to make bigger rolls, just cut it in 2. Then take each piece, dab the wet cut end into the flour and knead again in your hands like we did before. So usually you do it for a bit longer, this time maybe about 20 turns around, and you'll feel it change. The dough will start to feel quite soft and smooth. Then a little bit of flour on the palm of one hand and flatten it out. Turn it over, the underside will be quite sticky still, and fold in all the edges. So firm them up on the bottom and then place it on your baking tray, and then just keep going till they're all done. Try to work fairly quickly or the first rolls will be drying out. For rising the rolls, unless it's a really hot day, I usually rise them in the oven. I just preheat the oven to 60 degrees centigrade. Make sure I turn it off before I put the rolls in, and put a folded tea towel under the tray just in case the oven rack is too hot and kills some of the yeast. Otherwise, you need to find a really nice warm place for them. You also need to cover them to keep them moist while they rise. If the surface of them dries out, it will harden enough to prevent the rolls rising. So you can use oiled Glad wrap or just a plastic bag or a lid if you have one. It's not very glamorous, but I usually use a shopping bag as the plastic is a bit stiffer so it doesn't sink down and stick on the rolls and prevent them rising up. So you do need to make sure that whatever you cover them with won't stick to them and stop them rising. I usually give them a bit of a spray too with cold water, just to make sure the surfaces don't dry out. But if you've been quick with the kneading, you may feel you don't need to do this. Or if you're using plastic wrap, don't do this, it will probably just stick to the rolls. So just carry on till they're all done. Give them a spray if you like, cover them and put them in a warm place to rise for around 30 minutes. They don't usually take much longer than that if you've got a nice warm place. They should double their size when they rise, so once they've done that, turn your oven on to 180 degrees centigrade, and once it has come to temperature, remove the cover on the rolls and place them in to bake. Usually for around 20 to 25 minutes until they're brown and crusty. Place them straight onto the rack to cool. Another option is to put crosses in the tops of the rolls before you leave them to rise. It doesn't work that well, but it can add a little something if you would like to do that. So I hope you enjoy them. Please visit the blog for the full recipe and tips to make them work for you. They're great little dinner rolls. You just need to wait till they're almost cool before you cut them and eat them. I hope you enjoy them. Remember to please subscribe to our channel below and give us a thumbs up. And thank you for watching. Believe it, it's not gluten.